hiker and a park visitor myself and doing these things, when this case came out, the case that took place at Devil's Den, it literally sent shudders down my spine. We're going to talk about that and the absolute tragedy that took place at Devil's Den in today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey, hey.
Hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. We got a sofa. We got a Paul. My name is Paul if you're new to the channel, and if you're not new to the channel, my name's still Paul. Okay. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the case that took place at Devil's Den. This is a tragic case where two parents lost their lives protecting their two kids who were luckily able to get to safety. So what we're going to do is we're going to do like an overview of the case, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper into it. We're going to read some documents. We're going to look at some interviews. We're going to talk about, sofa speculation, what could be going on here, all that stuff. So go ahead and buckle up and let's start. So during one of these amazing summer days that we had, Kristen and Clinton Brink, along with their two daughters who are aged 7 and 9, they went to Devil's Den State Park. Now this is in the southwestern region of the Ozark Mountains. The park has major bragging rights of being considered one of the most intact civilian conservation corps sites in the United States. So we're going to refer to it as CCC moving forward. And we're going to talk about this for a little bit and like how it came to be and whatnot, just to paint the picture of where this took place. Now this program was a major component of FDR's New Deal, and it sought to address the Great Depression's escalating unemployment rates. Now the CCC was like incredibly successful, right? It employed millions of men, it improved the nation's infrastructure, and addressed problems impacting our natural resources. Now, in addition to being a living part of American history, the park is also very well known for its unique rock formations, caves, and trails. Now, Devil's Den State Park, this is, where activities, there's tons of stuff to do here, obviously, right? The self-service is also very limited here. And this was going to be the perfect blend for this family who had just moved to the area to enjoy family time, distraction-free, being in nature, all the things. At least it was supposed to be that way. But things obviously didn't go that way. And literally, this isn't even something that like Stephen King could come up with, okay? The absolute horridness of what would take place. Now let's talk about the victims, okay? The ones that lost their lives. I do consider the two children victims, but obviously in a different way. Now their mother, Kristen, this is a mom of two beautiful girls and a bonus mom to another, a beloved friend, a cherished colleague. These are just a few of the things that people were saying about her and how she's going to be remembered, okay? Now Danica Harrell recalled how Kristen unselfishly steps up to care for her daughter several nights a week while she was working overnight out of town. Now, Danica would tell a reporter, Thomas Berman, and I'm going to quote them, babysitting led to her finding her passion as a nurse. Now, Kristen would even question her ability to balance life as stay-at-home mom, nursing school, all the things. And Danica said that she told her, quote, dude, you could totally be a nurse, just jump in, end quote. Now, the healthcare industry was undoubtedly, apparently, her calling, right? A former colleague from Monument Health in Rapid City, South Dakota, recounted watching the quote, heartfelt compassion that Kristen poured into every patient on a day-to-day basis, end quote. Now, Kristen seemed to be exceptional in every facet of her life. She was only here for 41 very short years, but she left a mark that will never fade. Now, there's no better evidence of the mark that she left than with these two statements made by both Kim Chernis, who's a veteran head coach of Cal State and San Bernardino women's volleyball, and Sharif Amir, who's the director of athletics. Quote, Kristen was truly an iconic figure in our program who was loved by every single one of her teammates. She was one of the top settlers in the storied history of our program and still holds every assist record at our university, end quote. Now the next one is, begin quote, our program's continued success over the past 2 decades since she graduated is a direct result of the legacy that Kristen left, end quote. Now there are plans currently underway to honor Kristen at a home women's volleyball match later this fall. Now Clinton, likewise, was a very loving and devoted girl dad. In his mid-20s, his first daughter, Brianna, was born. And when scrolling through Facebook photos, the bond that they shared for 19 years is absolutely unmistakable. Now, Brianna would welcome Kristen with open arms and adored her little sisters. A family friend told the U.S. Sun, begin quote, "The love for their girls and each other was undeniable. They really were genuinely good-hearted people and had such a strong faith and deep love for each other," end quote. Now, also in another interview with Nancy Grace, a family friend, Danica, who we heard from before, described Clinton as a hard worker, said that he did whatever he needed to do for his family, and she said that if a job did not happen to work out, he'd find a new job within like a week, right? He also, when they moved to Rapid City, found it best to become a CNA and worked in the same hospital as Kristen, end quote. So, on July 26th, the family of four, like I said, they were new to Prairie Grove, Arkansas. They were super excited to, leave the moving boxes at home. Let's go do something, right? And they hit the trails. Now, the Brinks day of family fun would come to an absolute abrupt and sinister halt mid-afternoon. Now, this would take place when Clinton was assaulted by a stranger at the time, and obviously a stranger to them, wielding a knife. Now, Kristen was able to shield the girls from what was happening. It was basically like, come over here, go run, go get help, go do what you have to do. And then she turned back to go get her husband, okay? And this is obviously when her life would be taken too. Now, CrimeTimelines.com, amazing website. Go check them out. They do charting all the timelines of these cases that we follow. They indicated that at 2:15, the girls, who were obviously visibly upset, were found by a hiker off of a trail. They reported that their parents had been attacked while hiking and that, quote, their mother might have been stabbed and that their father was also injured, end quote. Now, the first call would come in to the Washington County EMS a little bit before 2:30 p.m. Now, scanner audio would reveal vivid details of the chaos and the uncertainty of like where this happened, what happened, all that drama. Let's listen to a little clip of it.
Medic 4, circular first responders, stage for police, assault, possible stabbing, Devil's Den State Park, operations ops 44, time out 1358. Washington County received a call from the visitor center. 2 children are there. They advised that their parents were assaulted. One was possibly stabbed. The parents are missing.
We're all sweeping the trail, me, and I've got a maintenance person with me, interpreters with first aid kits trying to locate the family.
Do we need to sweep the social trails or just stay on the main trail?
Cover the main trail right now first.
Hear yells calling for help. We're hiking down.
10-4, we're hearing them too towards the end of the lower part of the Devil's Den Trail. Try to relay to the office that we found the victims down here. They're on the lower Devil's Den Trail. I've got two bodies down here.
Now, here's the thing, listening to that, I mean, literally, y'all, I literally go hiking almost on some level every day, right? It might just be for a quick walk or whatever, but being in these situations in parks like this, and if you already know if you've been to these, I mean, you can be in remote areas, right? And I cannot imagine the poor girls trying to run and find help. Absolutely horrible. Now, like I said, due to the remote location, the time it took to arrive on scene and the time it took to gather like the information, like everything that was going on, right? The officials didn't release a statement until like 8:40 p.m. Now, investigators implored, obviously, any park visitors who were there earlier to check photos, videos, any kind of possible images for the suspect. Now, they also would ask residents in the surrounding areas to notify the Arkansas State Police if they have access to like security and game camera footage. Well, in less than 48 hours, officials had this photo of the suspect's back in a composite drawing. I'm going to put it on the screen here. Now, the origin of the suspicious photo is not right now, right? But clearly a fellow hiker sensed something was not quite right. Now, we'll also hear and watch some interviews from the Salon where he was called at eventually, and they will describe the vibe of this man, right? Like clearly when people ran into this guy, there was not good stuff going on, okay? Now, using surveillance footage from homes, businesses near the park, the whole 9 yards, police would learn the car that this person left off in was a dark sedan, maybe a Mazda, and they could see too that his license tag appeared to be covered in some type of opaque tape or whatever. I mean, hello, right? So as you can imagine, law enforcement was like inundated with tips, okay? And this helped them to put the pieces together relatively quickly. Now, during an interview, one witness stated that he, quote, saw a man emerging from the trail with blood on his face, entering a black sedan, end quote. Another soon identified the vehicle as a Kia Stinger, which was corroborated with security footage. By the following Wednesday, July 30th at 4:57 p.m., investigators located the Kia Stinger at a barbershop in Springdale, Arkansas. This is about like 30 miles away from Devil's Den. Now, at this point, and this goes back and forth with the name. There's a whole big thing when this came out where they were calling him James McCann. That's his middle name. So it's Andrew James McCann, okay? But this like went back and forth or whatever, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. But he was arrested mid-haircut. Let's take a quick look and we'll get deeper into it in a little bit.
I saw him, his eyes just looked sunken, pretty kind of like soulless, it's what I could describe.
July 30th was supposed to be another normal day on the job.
So you can only imagine what those ladies went through, and we'll break this down a little bit more here in a minute, but let's keep going for now. Now, at this point, he would consent to a search of his vehicle, and in the evening, he would end up confessing to the murders and confirmed that he didn't know the victims. And he stated, quote, he planned the attack and waited with deliberate person to kill the two hikers, end quote. Now, he was booked into the Washington County Detention Center and charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Now, at this point, he has pled not guilty to this. The motive has not yet been determined at all. Now, also following the arrest, it was confirmed that he was recently hired as a teaching candidate for the 2025-2026 school year and passed all the background checks, okay? Now, in spring of 2023, he was placed on administrative leave while he was employed at Donald Elementary School in Flower Mound, Texas, due to air quotes, concerns related to classroom management and professional judgment and student favoritism, end quote. Now, one parent, Sierra Markham, said that he came across pretty cold and disinterested in his students, end quote. Another parent, Kyle Swanson, remembers him as reserved and not super friendly and stated the first day they met, he was just off-putting. He wouldn't look at me really, wouldn't talk to me. He would only really talk to the kids and he would just walk away. I don't know, it was a strange interaction, end quote. He's gonna have an official arraignment and all this type of stuff coming up August 25th or something like that. I believe it might have happened a little bit sooner, but he has said not guilty and all these things at this point, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the documents, some of the statements, some of the interviews, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and dive into the very beginnings when this was popping off. Okay, y'all, so remember I talked about crimetimelines.com? We're going to start off with them and start off at the very beginning. And what I want to do is read the official release that came out. So I'll put it on the screen here and we'll just read through it. So you see the creepy picture of him there? I mean, y'all, this dude is like scary, okay? Those ladies at the salon called him, like they said it was like he had no soul. I mean, you can see that in the picture, so imagine a person. So let's start off here. At the very top, July 30th. Well, at the very top, ASP arrest suspect in Devil's Den, double homicide, July 30th, 2025. Lowell, Arkansas. Special agents with the Arkansas State Police have arrested Andrew James McCann, 28 years old, of Springdale, in connection to a double homicide that occurred on Saturday, July 26, 2025 at Devil's Den State Park. McCann was taken into custody at 4:57 p.m. on Wednesday, July 30th, at a business in Springdale and charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Clinton David Brink, 43, and Kristen Amanda Brink, 41, were fatally attacked while hiking with their 2 daughters, who were 7 and 9. They were not injured and are safe with family members. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders released the following, quote, no news can heal the enormous harm done to the Brink family in last weekend's crime, but this announcement is a comfort and reassurance for our state. I am so proud of the Arkansas State Police, park rangers, local law enforcement, and others who have worked non-stop since the last weekend to capture the suspect. I ask that Arkansans lift up prayers of thanks for the brave men and women of law enforcement and offer prayers of condolence to the victims of this horrific crime. Let there be no mistake, we do not tolerate violent crime in Arkansas. If you target innocent people, law enforcement will hunt you down and bring you to justice. ASP Colonel Mike Hager added, quote, I'm extremely grateful for the long hours and dedication that our agents put forward in bringing justice to this family family. The collaboration between state police and other state and local law enforcement agencies and our federal partners has been second to none. Because of their hard work and investigative skill, we were able to take a monster off the streets and bring relief to those two precious girls and the rest of our citizens. Additional details will be released as they become available. And then you see at the bottom where it says the correction. An earlier version of this release listed the suspect's name as James Andrew McCann. It had been corrected to Andrew James McCann. So there's that. Now let's go a little bit deeper than that and let's take a look at the actual arrest warrants. I'll put them up here on the screen and we'll go through them. Now here's this first page. It just kind of lists all the basics out here, you know, the last name, the first name, blah, 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 blah. The location, that was the Salon, 513, 730, capital murder charges. Let's go into that next page and we're going to read through this real quick. And this is just the warrant here. And it's, you know, establishing the probable cause, etc. So it says on Saturday, July 26, 2025, Washington County Dispatch received a 911 call from the Devil's Den State Park. The caller reported that they had located two bodies on the trail and a large amount of blood was present. Two children, girls aged 7 and 9, were located by a hiker. The hiker got the girls off the trail and then hiked to find the girls' parents. The hiker located the deceased bodies of the parents on the trail. The hiker then had to hike out of the trail to get phone service. The Arkansas State Parks requested that the Arkansas State Police take the investigation. ASP investigators arrived at the park and began interviewing patrons, one of which noted an individual who emerged from the trail with what appeared to be blood on his face. The witness reported that the individual with blood on his face entered a black sedan and drove it away from the park on Highway 170. Later, a second witness stated that the black sedan was a Kia Stinger. Security footage from local businesses and residences in the general area provided by investigators with video of a vehicle later determined to be a 2022 Kia Stinger. ASP investigators investigated the crime scene and located a blood trail leading from the crime scene. The blood trail was believed to be the victim's blood. All evidence was collected and relevant evidence was submitted to the crime lab. On Monday, July 28, 2025, an autopsy was performed on both of the victims by the Arkansas State Crime Laboratory. The medical examiner provided investigators with a preliminary finding that both of the victims died in a homicide by stabbing wounds. In the days following the homicides, police were able to identify the suspect vehicle as a black Kia Stinger. On July 30th, 2025, police continued their investigation and were able to locate the suspect vehicle at a barber shop in Springdale, Arkansas at approximately 4:58 p.m. Investigators entered the barber shop, identified themselves, and made a general inquiry as to the ownership of the vehicle parked in the barber shop's lot. An individual who was receiving a haircut, later identified as the defendant, Andrew James McCann, indicated that he was the owner of the vehicle. Investigators noticed in speaking with McCann that there were several cuts on his hands. McCann was detained. McCann provided consent to investigators to enter his vehicle to obtain his identification. And when investigators entered the vehicle, a substance appearing to be blood was observed inside the vehicle. Because of the significant blood found leaving the crime scene and the wounds on McCann's hands, plus the blood located inside the vehicle, investigators seized and transported McCann's Kia Stinger to the Arkansas State Police Troop L headquarters. McCann was taken to Arkansas State Police Troop L headquarters, where after being provided his Miranda warnings, he made statements indicating that he had committed the two homicides. Andrew James McCann committed the offenses of 2 counts of capital murder when he made a plan to attack and kill another. Andrew then waited with deliberated purpose and killed 2 hikers at the Devil's Den State Park. Now next, let's go into a little bit deeper of how they were able to catch him, and let's look at some of that chilling footage. Now the first thing we're going to do is look at some clips from Law and Crime, and we'll get deeper into these as well, but I'm just going to talk over them. And this is cell phone footage of the car being towed, and then, you know, security footage from the salon. So we see here where they're towing the car, the red tape on it. She will reference that here in a little bit in an interview we're going to watch. And, you know, zooming in. Now here he comes. Look at how he is. Even through the camera, like, or watching the way we are, you can just get a vibe. Okay, and she's going to talk about his hair. And she already knew something was up. This guy already had this place unsettled. And he was, you know, doing the, you know, don't take anything off the top. I want to leave it long. She's consulting with him here. You know, now here's him being arrested, still has the cape on. Can you imagine what these ladies were going through? You know, already this super bad energy. Now look at him coming in here. Look at how nonchalant he is. He's just sitting down. He's got some khakis on, just like it's another day, right? Like, whatever. You know, nothing to see here, folks. Guy talking to him here, just, you know, regular old day. Nothing to see here but a psychopathic killer. And then here's him at that first thing there. You know, you can see him in his little stripe things. And I mean, it's for real. But also look at how small this little courtroom is. Isn't that interesting? And there's that scary photo. That is pure rage. That is some Michael Myers evil behind those eyes. Now, like I said, the ladies at the salon did amazing. And again, I consider them victims of his too, because you'll hear their story, right? Obviously, they didn't lose their lives, but there's, you know, different ways of being a victim, and damage is done to many different people in these crimes. Now, what I want to do is let's hear them talk about coming face to face with him, having this man, having a Michael Myers type energy in a chair in front of you. I think they're lucky to be alive myself.
I want to start off first by saying my condolences to the Brink family. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about them. And they'll always be in my heart to imagine those little girls.
Now this is what I'm talking about, and how nice of her to start this off with that, but you see how upset they are, right? Imagine being in that situation where this is just thrust upon you, you're just at work, and then also being like, I was that close to a murderer who did something that horrendous. I mean, this is gonna live with her the rest of her life.
When I saw him, he looked pretty normal. Something did feel off about him. I noticed I was in the break room heating up my food for lunch, and I noticed a black car pulled up. The door is open, so I would see who would pull up. I came back up here, and I noticed the guy just standing over here. As soon as I saw him, something fell off about him.
Now this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can sense evil, right? And you can remember what this guy's just done a few days before. Now he's dumb enough to stay in the part, you know, in the area or whatever. Now I'm not complaining, because obviously it brought him to justice, but interesting to see, like, this could have been any of us in her place, right? Of running into someone and then being pulled into this. And even on that level where she sensed it, there's just something not right about this guy.
He looked pretty scary. He didn't look like he was okay. He was very timid. He was always with his head down, long hair covering his face. But I didn't want to speak up yesterday after seeing the photos, because anything can change from when those pictures were taken, and he looked to be a lot slimmer, but as soon as I saw the pictures, I'm like, that's him. He just looks slimmer. Like I said, he was on the run. He probably didn't eat, or took care of himself.
Now also on this part right here where she's talking like the difference in, you know, how he appears with the pictures, and he's smaller and this, that, and the other, but also where she was like, he doesn't look well, like he doesn't look okay. Think about the cases that we do, and we talk about this often if you follow me, where there's a difference in someone who maybe you say they snapped versus someone who is just not right. So like Taylor Shabusiness, for example, she is somebody who strikes me that when you look at her, you can sense that something's off with this person. Like, it just makes something go ding, 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 versus say someone interacting with Ted Bundy on, you know, not obviously in the moment of him doing his thing, but just in general, where people are like, no, this is a very charming guy. He was very nice. He could talk you into anything, sell ice cream, you know, to, you know, an Eskimo, like all the things, right? So it's very interesting, this part right here, where I'm just like, again, can just sense the evilness. You can sense something is not right.
Pretty confused. I don't know how to describe it. I saw him, his eyes just looked sunken, pretty kind of like soulless is what I could describe. He didn't want anything cut from the top of his head. He wanted to hide his face. He just wanted a fade on the sides. He didn't really know what he wanted, so I kind of explained to him what kind of haircut would go well with him. with what he had.
So the whole thing's soulless, all these things, right? Again, we see this in these, not all of them, but some of the defendants where they just have these eyes that it's just like there's nothing there, there's nothing behind them. Yeah, I think psychologically that dynamic is very interesting with these cases, with these, defendants and whatnot. Now what I want to do is review an interview. This again is from Law and Crime, and this is someone that grew up with Andrew. So this guy who grew up with Andrew, this was like in the very close-knit suburbs of Chicago, it sounds like. Now he'll recount playing Little League Baseball with his father as the coach, meaning Andrew's father as a coach. Now he says beneath that normalcy of like just regular kid stuff, whatever, he says there was like this simmering anger that made people very uneasy. He said after high school that he would abruptly cut off lots of friends, block them on social media, no explanation, anything like that, right? Now around the same time he ended up moving out west. And this was a decision that, he's like, I wonder if this was influenced by his mother's Oklahoma roots. So in general, he, basically describes this normalcy of childhood, but these red flags that he looks back over now. And he's like, maybe this meant something. Maybe there was something more to it. So let's look at a few clips of that and we'll talk about it along the way.
First question, Bill, is just how did you know Andrew James McCann?
Just growing up in the neighborhood, it's Chicago. Yeah, everyone knows each other, one way or another.
Now, Bill will describe this neighbor as like I think he says like a blue collar working class neighborhood, lots of cops, firefighters, union workers, people of this nature. So it sounds like a very close knit community that you can only imagine right now the things they're saying.
I remember, first off, his family was always nice to me. They were nice to everyone. His dad was a coach. His dad was my coach. Played baseball with him, and he was just, seemed like a normal kid. Just that's how I remember him.
So again, just this regular normalcy or whatever, it just makes you wonder at what point what went wrong, what snapped, what changed him.
Personally, some people have said, he had quite a temper on him, but I can't really equate that because kids, so.
Now he describes this in like kind of two different segments as this, other people describing that, but he'll recount here in a second, we'll watch, about some situations that came up with him. And one thing that makes me wonder with this is the rage that he speaks of, that it just would go from here to here and like no explanation for it. And that unwellness that like the Salon people talked about and whatnot. And this will go a little bit deeper into when we talk about the potential, why did he do this type thing? And where was this coming from? Was it that rage? It almost reminds me of that same type thing we see with Brian Koberger.
And from what I know, people that were really close to him, they all lost contact with him. Like, I don't know what happened, honestly, but they said, yeah, he ended up blocking me or something. And
so just turning his back, blocking people, moving along, no rhyme or reason. And it makes you wonder too, like, okay, was it because he was mad at people and that was his way of dealing with it on some level and this was all brewing up?
Is there anything over the past week that you think about? And I know like you were kids when you knew him and then like here and there in the neighborhood, but like anything over the past week that's kind of like in hindsight you're thinking about?
Yeah, for sure. It's just, little things like, just him really losing his cool and like things that I've heard from people and they're like, yeah, like 1 minute he's fine. And then if, you're kind of messing with him, he freaks out, completely freaks out. And, so much to the point where it's like uncomfortable. And I remember when we'd play baseball, he would get super, really, really angry. But I also, like I said, it could be the pressures of being a kid and your dad's a coach but just things like that, just really like, stories where I've heard he's cut someone off, like my friend's dad and with his dad is in the car, and, just freaking out at them for, just cutting and getting cut off. And it's like, the way he acted, there was no reason for it. You know, just little things like that that are like kind of a red flag. Like
that response, that rage, that anger that seems to come out. I mean, he's talking about, you know, Andrew even going off on a friend with his dad in the car because he thought they cut him off or something. You know, it makes you wonder, did the specific incident with the Brinks, was it because that he perceived them to do something, or did he want something from them? And we're going to get into that in a minute. You know, because right now we're still like, there's no, like, why did he do this, right? You know, he's allegedly admitted to hiding out in the trail and kind of like playing out, I'm going to take their lives. You know, so it's like, why did he think that they did something? And then he was like, you know what, I'm going to get revenge. Because this kind of volatileness that this guy's describing of like, yeah, you know, we couldn't tell if it was a kid thing or whatever, but like some of the stuff was like uncomfortable the way he would get so upset. Imagine in the salon chair if they had done something that he perceived as that. I mean, to me, I'm like, they're lucky to be alive. Like, so many things could have set this guy off. And so I just wonder if that ties in ultimately with what he did to the family. Now, speaking of weird behavior, all these things, remember earlier they talked about he had just gotten, you know, a job as a teacher or whatever. Okay, and some of the past things that have happened. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into that part. Okay, so in May 2022, Andrew graduated from Oklahoma State University, had a bachelor's degree in elementary education. Now, just days later, May 7th, he gets his Oklahoma teaching certificate. Okay, so for the 2022-2023 school year, he taught at Donald Elementary, but in the spring of 2023, he was placed on administrative leave. Now, this was over those concerns that we talked about, the classroom management, professional judgment, student favoritism, and even unfair treatment or uneven treatment of students. Now, an internal investigation by the Louisville ISD found no evidence of inappropriate behavior with students, but they concluded that his classroom management and judgment fell below district expectations. So he resigned that May, but by July 21st, 2023, he had obtained a Texas Educator Certificate that was valid through August of 2028. Now, records listed a Dallas address, and it's believed that he worked at a school in Flower Mound during that year. Now, for the 2023-2024 school year, he moved on to teach in the Broken Arrow Public Schools District. Now, in May 2024, he was working at a small Oklahoma school district before resigning to take a job out of state. Now, Sand Springs Public Schools near Tulsa confirmed that he had passed all background checks. Now, by October 28th, 2024, he had secured an Arkansas teaching certificate. Most recently, he had been hired by that Springdale Public Schools as a teacher candidate for this upcoming year, 2025-2026, at elementary school. And the district says that he had not yet met or interacted with any families or students before his arrest. Okay, so that's like a quick overview, but let's go back to Law and Crime's interview that they were doing. Well, not the interview, but the show they were doing, and look at some clips that go a little bit deeper past the surface level of what he was like as a school teacher, and it is scary.
His teaching career. Andrew James McCann was hired by at least 5 different school districts in 3 different states since 2022, and at least at one of them, McCann has been accused of acting inappropriately to young girls in his classroom by parents, and we're now learning more about the specifics of that, and let me tell you, it's very creepy. We've tracked 5 different school districts hiring McCann as an elementary school teacher in Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma, all since 2022. He was set to start in Springdale, Arkansas school district this week, but that was before he was arrested last week at a Springdale barbershop.
Now, one thing it makes you even think, I'm just like, what was he like in a job interview? Can you imagine? I mean, people are getting freaked out by him just in the salon chair. Imagine him sitting across the desk from you, let alone teaching kids.
When the story first broke, parents in Flower Mound, Texas, which is outside Dallas, started to voice concerns about how McCann handled himself in the classroom in the 2022 school year. This parent said he was inappropriate to little girls at Donald Elementary. Then you have another family from that school who told the New York Post that McCann put a little girl on his lap and allegedly said things like, quote, "I wish I could date you. I wish you could be my girlfriend." Think about that. Now, this mom went public on Facebook saying McCann would allegedly bring candy and soda to class, but would only give it to the girls. She also claims that McCann would hold lunch for, quote, special girls. Now, the mom went on to say that at the same time, McCann was praised by some for being liked by students, for having charisma, and that could potentially point to how he was able to move from school to school and continue to be hired and pass background checks and then hide the person who he allegedly really is that we now know since he's in custody.
Okay, so clearly, number one, the information from the parents is very different than like the superficial thing the school's saying. And now I'm not sitting here saying that this is, for sure, whatever, sofa speculation, but obviously a school is going to not want to admit that they hired somebody that did some creepy stuff like that, and they're going to make it generic, right? Like, no, we didn't find anything, but we did let him go for this over here. Now again, I don't know how it works exactly, but when we saw like what the parent said versus what the school says, I'm like, well, the school has a vested interest to protect themselves, right? Clearly it should be the students, but especially if it's like, well, this dude passed all these things. Now also them saying, well, some people said that he had a good rapport with the students and that, charming and this, that, and the other. This is what I'm talking about. Was he good at wearing a mask at some times, but then it would fall away and he just, whatever was beneath that mask took over? Because even looking at any of these pictures, those eyes look very off, very feral.
Head of the school year. The Plano School District told KTVT in Dallas that McCann was only employed there for 4 days and he resigned before the start of the school year. It's unclear why, but certainly bizarre. He finished last school year in another school district, once again in Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa, before he moved to Arkansas, where he was going to work as an elementary school teacher this year in the community of Springdale, which is about a half-hour north of Devil's Den State Park.
And again, thank God that didn't happen, right? And one thing that makes me think is that he was sitting there leaving, and I think the host says this, but I'll say it because I'm going to forget. It's almost like he was leaving the places before anything could be really tarnishing his record, so he could keep bouncing around. Now, I don't know. I mean, obviously state to state, I imagine the states don't share the same information and whatnot. So if you're teetering on stuff with no real true blemish on your record, he could probably get there and do creepy stuff. And like that thing where he was there for 4 days, I'm like, well, what did he do, right? Did he do something that he knew, like, I better get out of here? Clearly not a person that needs to be around young children. Now, with this going on and with this coming to light, there's now possible links between other murders. Now, let's just talk about one very quickly. Now, detectives in Wisconsin are investigating whether Andrew could potentially be tied to this other case. This is back in 2020, and it's the unsolved stabbing of a 24-year-old man named John, and this was in Devil's Lake State Park, Wisconsin. Now, you can already see what some of the similarities are like. Okay, so number one, we have the location type. Both state parks have the name Devil, in it, right? There's broad daylight knife attacks on both of them, and then the suspect description. So John was stabbed to death on Grotto's Trail. It was a busy, leaf season day at the park, okay? Now, witnesses would describe a runner. It was a 5'10" white male, all dark clothing, running very frantically. However, there was no murder weapon ever recovered, and there was no photos of the suspect. So there's going to be other things like this that will come and go, and, we'll just see what pans out with it. So let's talk about some closing statements here and some potential whys. So I have two theories here. This is sofa speculation. I do not know. I am not privy to anything that anyone else is. So let me know what your own theory is. But I go down two pathways here. Number one, because of the evidence of him being so inappropriate with children and whatnot, specifically girls, take that over here. Then put this over here. You have the couple and they have two girls. They're on the trail. He's seeking them out. He's hiding. He's waiting. My theory is that he possibly was like, I want the girls. I'm going to get rid of the parents to get to them. Okay. I imagine as more comes out, we might find out things that he said or did or whatever. And if more evidence comes out that he seemed to be more interested in them or what, whatever, we'll find that out. Okay. Depending on what comes out of the case and whatnot. So the fact that, whatever interaction took place, these parents, the dad went down first. Obviously, the mom is getting the girls off. She goes back to try and get help. He kills the mother too. The girls are long gone. Luckily, they, find help and that, right? My heart breaks for them. I can't imagine those moments that they had to see this going down with their parents. Now, another thing taking place that could be if there's no evidence to suggest that he was after them, ultimately or whatever. And you know what I'm saying by after them, okay? I don't think he was trying to kill them right away, okay? So again, thank God he didn't get to the kids, is if this guy has a temper that's so psychotic, what if, and I mean, this is complete, just I'm using this as an example. Let's say in the parking lot, he felt like this guy took his parking space and he was like, well, you know what? Today's your day, buddy. And he was like, I'm going to kill that guy. And he went and hid in the woods and he was like, I'm going out. Clearly, Andrew is not well, right? There's the baseline not well of somebody who would even do this. And then there's the baseline of like, this guy does not look well. He looks like something it's not right. So what I'm getting at is you could just like tailor your business. I just felt like doing it, so here we go, that type thing. So I'm like, hey, maybe he had an interaction with them. They didn't even know it. And he interpreted them as, you know, ticking him off. And so this was what he did. He was like, here we go. Maybe he wasn't after the girls. I don't know, but I feel like it goes down one of those two paths. And again, time will tell. So again, in closing, this is a horrifyingly tragic case. I can't imagine the psychological damage that's been done to those poor kids that saw this take place. Thank God they got out. Thank God they got help. I believe they're with family members now, so thank God for that at least. But my heart breaks for what they're going to have to go through. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, pretty please. While you are down there, if you could drop some little sofas off for Roscoe and Spirit right here, and little Bo and Luke, and yourself, the Sofa Squad, who makes the channel possible. I do appreciate it. And yeah, let me know what do you have a theory on this? Are you from the area? Do you know anything about it? I want to know down in the comment section. And until we all gather down there in the comment section to do all that stuff I just talked about, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.